So I can be free. I take the weight on my shoulders. I feel the sky come down on me, and I can't hold it much longer. Gotta let go so I can be free.
Let's do this. Foul Territory live on a Tuesday. We're doing this Monday through Friday, whether AJ likes it or not. Scotty B with AJ, Eric Kratz in his house. What?
Why is it me? Why is it whether I like it or not? I mean,
because you complain more than Kratz.
You definitely
Sometimes
complain a lot.
playfully.
You know what? I don't complain more. I just have more things going on in my life, I think, than Kratz does.
What?
Not a chance. Not a chance. Don't put that out there. Like you're like, you do whatever your wife wants you to do. You don't have your own schedule. And you think because you know a lot of celebrities that you're just gonna oh, well, you know, I can just go out on my boat that's in my backyard that's connected to my long porch, my patio.
I'm missing my tea time, Kratzy. How many? Kratzy, tell the world, because I don't think we
don't hate me.
We've gone over this yet. You have how many kids?
3.
3. And the ages?
16, 14 are my boys, and my daughter's 10.
Right. So he's got more action. How old are your kids now?
17, daughter, and 16, son.
Right. So, I mean, 10, you got to drive them around. There's a lot more to it when you don't have the license. Am I correct, Kratzy, coming from someone who doesn't have kids yet?
You're exactly right. But you're staying up till 4 a.m.
Last
night, I'm getting up with 3 a.m. Actually, I didn't get up. I just found out in the morning that my son threw up. He was in a play this past weekend, and probably 60 cast members were in the play. I think like 40 of them have missed school now for some stomach bug. So that's nice. So that's what I'm dealing with right now. And AJ is talking about, my tea time got pushed back with the former president.
How about this, Kratzy? I'm keeping them overtime today. We're going to go live on Instagram and maybe TikTok and bring on some friends. Only Gems, which was the group that sent us all those Topps cards the other day. We're going to rip through more of those packs. They're going to join us.
Dude, if I don't get like a card worth some money, I'm going to be mad.
We've got JJ Bleday. The signed JJ Bleday.
Yeah, well, I'm complaining. No, I'm not complaining. I'm just forewarning that if I
you're
don't
going
get
to
it,
complain?
no, I'm not going to complain. I'm just saying that, like, I want something worth some money. I don't want some guy who you can't even tell me what team he's on.
I did okay. I was like 50-50 on
one for
who,
20
what
isn't bad. Like your career batting average, but it's okay.
What, 200? Yeah.
Well, okay, so we'll do it. It's called Tuesday Rips. We're going to try and do it every Tuesday in the 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock area, somewhere in that range. I think we're going to try and go live at 1:15 today. Also, Knights of DGen, which is a group of like very dedicated sports fans, they're going to join us too on that. I mean, you're probably looking at me like I don't know what any of this means, but you will eventually.
I will learn.
You will learn. Also, I don't want to steer away from the topic that you just said. Eric Kratz, who is a actually superstar Twitter guy, like great to follow. He's all, and he probably sees I'm liking all his posts.
But it goes back to he has so much time on his hands that he can tweet this much. See,
yeah, like 1 in the morning when you're sleeping.
Like, dude, I was 9:30. He gone.
Kratzy getting in some beef with people on Twitter last night. So O'Neal Cruz, and you can mostly set this up yourself, Kratzy, but correct me if I'm wrong here. O'Neal Cruz smashes one, ends up what? Punching off the wall. Did he think it was going to be caught?
Aaron Hicks clanked it.
Aaron Hicks, right.
It was a routine fly ball, and Aaron Hicks clanked it. And then, Mr. Johnny Hustle over here, Kratz, is all over him. So go ahead, Kratz.
Yeah, I mean,
we're never getting a Pirate again now.
I'm never going to be invited to Pirate Alumni Day, I guess. But that's one off the list. But I had no idea. I had no idea what was the firestorm that was waiting for me. I originally started the tweet to get the fire off of Hicks for dropping a fly ball in his first night game of spring training. My guy's trying to win the job in left field for the Yankees. Whether dropping a ball makes you lose a job or not, he was getting a lot of bad pubs. So I was trying to get, a little bit of the fire off him, but little did I know that I was going to get an absolute firestorm for just mentioning the fact that Cruz didn't quite hustle. I don't even know where he went because the ball was up in the air for like 8 seconds. And I mean, it went from, they attacked my illustrious WAR, which I need to kind of defend myself. I spent most of my career in AAA, and that is exactly what WAR stands for, wins above replacement. Like I am equal to the replacement player. My career WAR is -0.1. And if you actually take a deeper dive analytically, the reason my WAR is a -0.1 is because of my last pitching outing. I gave a home run up to Danny Jansen, and so my pitching WAR is a negative, and it pushed my career WAR into the negative. So I'm actually really proud of it. But they were attacking everything. They were attacking how terrible I did for the Pirates. They were attacking. They didn't say how ugly I was, but I mean, it was. They still had a lot of stuff out there, but just be careful. Be careful, AJ. They got angry last night.
Well, that's why I only put out positive things on my Twitter. I don't
put,
like cakes and cupcakes and things like I'm not talking about.
So let's show that too in a sec.
So you live negatively. You say a lot of negative things in real life, but I wasn't even negative.
Well, isn't that what Twitter's all about? You're full of crap. Everyone's full of crap on Twitter.
Wait, everybody combined that gave Kratz shit last night on Twitter has 0 big league at-bats.
No, I bet you
there
might have been some ex-player. One ex-player was on there?
No, because an ex-player wouldn't have given him shit for O'Neal Cruz not running out of fly ball. Okay, I get it. It's spring training. That's a different conversation. Like, Absolutely. If we really care, cool. But going after Kratz's career, I'm sorry.
He has a negative WAR.
Sorry for being a big leaguer. Like, we're picking on big leaguers now.
Should have tried harder.
And also, Kratz, like, God forbid, I mean, unless you're a superstar, you're not allowed to have an opinion on the sport, period. Well, then we would just wipe out basically every TV personality too. So you keep doing your thing.
I need to know what my WAR needs to be able to say something. So maybe AJ can.
Maybe in the positives would be a good start.
A positive, but as a
positive
player,
WAR.
As a position player, I have a positive WAR.
Yes.
Nope, it doesn't
and you need to explain that, Kratzy, next time on Twitter. At some point, we'll clip this off.
You should be mad at Danny
Eric
Jansen.
Kratz is fine in the WAR category. He just can't pitch, and that's fair. And you still have more pitching appearances than every freaking person that was on Twitter that was giving you shit.
I don't go there because I truly believe that I could have been one of those guys that never played in the big leagues. And I feel like we're going to have Max Muncy on later. Like, that's half my questions. Like, this dude was close to not being in the big leagues. And I think we'll get into my story when we have a really slow day, or you can read my book. Ooh, plug for my book.
Yes, we'll be all over that in the summertime.
It's one of those things that it really, I do see it. I make a lot of jokes about it. And I know that it's tough to make the big leagues, but I also know that, like, it's really easy to not make the big leagues. A lot of people don't make the big leagues. And so I rarely play the card. The one card I did play, he said, you can't say anything. You have a negative WAR. I said, and a big house. So,
oh my gosh! Oh, come on!
Yeah,
incredible. I love
like
that.
A guy we used to know. Brett Boone. He used to always say, "Well, you're really short," and he'd say, "I'm tall when I stand on my wallet." So I mean,
I spoke to Brett the other day. Actually.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah,
funny guy.
All right, I have a few things before we get to the news. So first off, military base of the day. I want to give a shout out to Luke Air Force Base in Glendale, Arizona. Near a lot of the spring training camps, and they were the launch point for the Navy flyover for the Super Bowl, which is always incredible to watch too.
Yeah.
Like that they're
Can I get
so
a Thunderbirds ride
synchronized.
if I'm ever in Arizona? Can I get on the Thunderbirds, please? Thank you.
What's the Thunderbirds?
Yeah, what's that?
It's like the Blue Angels.
Okay. Yeah. Mustakis is the guy. Mustakis had us set up for a ride in spring training back in 2016, and something went down military-wise, and they just kiboshed it.
Yeah. You wouldn't fit.
Would you?
I'm serious.
Have you sat in one?
I did it. I did the Blue Angels.
And how did you fit?
I was the limit.
Weight limit or height limit?
Both.
Really?
Yeah.
So if you're like 6'4", 220, you're not going in there.
Well, I wish I weighed 220. So
yeah, he hasn't seen 220.
I haven't seen 220 since high school, so I wish I was 220. Yeah, no, literally they were like, if you were 1 inch taller, or weight wasn't the problem, it was the height, because the glass ceiling and the helmet. So it's like like if we're trying to, I'm going to duck down, but like the helmet was like right here on the glass ceiling. And they said, if you were 1 inch taller, we wouldn't let you fly.
Yeah. So it's like the opposite of the theme park, like must be this small.
Yeah.
To ride.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. AJ saved the world today.
Well, that's an overstatement, but.
Well, he saved a bird.
Two
birds. This is important, though. Part of this show is to show the softer side of AJ Pierzynski, who saved two birds that were trapped inside, like the, what do you call that?
Like the breezeway between, because we're people that don't know, we're at my house. This is actually at my house.
Mm-hmm.
Scott's down in my house, and this is attached over my garage. We don't have basements in Florida, so it's like over my garage where we're at. And there's a little walkway. It's not connected to the main house. And there was two doves trapped in between the breezeway, and they kept flying into the window. And after we do our meeting, this is it right here. You can see them there. There's two of them. And he just kept flying into the window. And I'm like, oh boy. So I had to grab them. There you go. I see me grabbing the two birds, and you take them outside the little thing, and they flew away happily. But there is a nest of dove above my front door, which I'm not allowed to get rid of.
No. Well, do you see the face there from AJ Kratzy? He looked really happy. And I will say the bird actually looked pretty chilled out. So I think he's the bird whisperer.
He looked, that was AJ's happy place.
Yeah.
He was not in the studio. He was holding something from nature. He saved a life. Did you hear anything negative during that time? He's probably like, oh, they made smudges on my windows.
No, he was yelling at me outside going, yo, are you scared of birds? And I was like, no, am I supposed to be? So I came out and I'm like, whoa, he's just holding a bird. Like, look, I'm saving the birds right before the show starts.
Are those turtle doves? Like, I don't know. You said doves. I don't know. Is there... Like,
I think it's a dove, like with, it's like we just call them dove down here. I don't know if they're like, is there like a difference between a dove and a turtle dove?
I don't know. They sing about it, like two turtle doves. Like
no, that's like, yeah, those are just dove. We have them everywhere, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Well, good work.
There's about six of them above my front door that have a nest that won't move.
And you're just going to be saving doves all day. You're a champion.
Oh, boy.
All right, we'll get to the other stuff later. I do want to just finish with a shout out to a minor leaguer who did well. We're going to try and make this a regular thing. During Kratz Hats, Kratzy, what do you have today for us?
Omaha Storm Chasers. And I debated wearing this because I technically was a big leaguer. I was on the Phantom DL for the Royals in the show. So that was like my apex of my AAA career. You know, I was buying a spread once a homestand, once a road trip. I was flying A seating on Southwest whenever we flew somewhere.
Wow.
But it was a rehab. But that's where I got to play with Whit Merrifield and hit some homers in Omaha. The wind, it seems like it's always blowing out there. So that was nice.
And then you go to Kansas City as a player and you're like, oh, that's not leaving the yard.
Oh, no, I just didn't play.
But I'm saying, thank you. You're
That's why your WAR is negative.
You're great.
You just kept it that way, not pitched, and then he would have been in the positive.
That I wouldn't. Right. If you don't play, it's a 0. It's right at the.
I loved hitting, dude. I loved hitting in Kansas City.
Really?
Oh my! It was like Coors Field. There was just room everywhere.
Oh, with the outfield, but
you could just get hits. I got some homers in Kansas City, but getting hits in Kansas City, I was like, oh, I get hits here all day long because it just looked like there was outfield for days.
I'm just saying some guys go from Omaha to Kansas City thinking they're going to hit a ton of homers, and they're like, oh, that's not leaving.
Yeah, it's definitely it's going to squash some homers, but it's not that bad. But AJ's right. Until the Royals built that outfield with Gordo and Locaine and Gerard Dyson, those dudes made that outfield look tiny. And then they left, and it was like, whoa, this is a lot of area to cover.
Agreed. Bryce Miller is our minor league prospect report of the day. Right-hander, number 2 in the Mariners system. He should be pitching for them this year, if not at the beginning of camp or at the beginning of the season, then that at some point during the year. He's 24 years old, and he struck out 4 and 3 scoreless against the Guardians on Monday. And before we get into the news, Ken Rosenthal is joining us in about 15-ish, right?
If he can find a random street corner to stand on like he did last time.
And then Max Muncy making his foul territory debut. We'll talk to Max. A lot to get into, including one of the first things I want to ask him about is Justin Turner. So the big news from Monday, Justin hit in the face by a fastball from Tigers right-hander Matt Manning. And that was in the bottom of the first, right towards the beginning of the game. And he was taken to a local hospital. He's doing okay. A lot of the testing came out pretty good. And his wife, Courtney, is very active and informative for us on Twitter. Said, thank you to everyone that reached out about Justin and sent prayers. We're home now. He's resting okay. Maybe listening to the replay of the game. 16 stitches, a lot of swelling. Thanking God for no fractures, clear scans. I mean, it sucks. 16 stitches, the whole deal. But AJ, that's news-wise about as good as it can be for Justin. I mean, you saw that. That was scary.
It was scary. The best news you get, no facial fractures, no orbital bone, no nothing up in here in the eyes, just some stitches. And he'll get better from that. But, man, that is the scariest thing, not only as a player, but, like, when you were catching and a guy got hit in the face, that was like you never want to see anybody get hit in the face. But when it happened, you were like, hurry up to the trainer. You're trying to check on them. You don't want to really move them because they always say leave them where they are. But it is just a bad, scary situation. I'm happy Justin Turner's back. Great. One of the great guys. Won the Roberto Clemente Award last year. Just one of the truly nice people in the game of baseball.
And really good player, too. And you see something like this and you hope as a baseball fan that it doesn't affect, when you hear everything that he's healthy, that it doesn't affect the way he plays. You know, you gotta be able to stay in there. And I don't know. I've never been hit in the face. I've seen it happen. I've been behind the dish, and AJ's right. It just sounds different when it hits somebody in the face and they go down and you're right there. It's like, I don't know, everything seems like it just stops, especially when there's a decent amount of bleeding there. You just hope that he comes back and he can still hang in there, and he's got to deal with something that's not just going to be, you know what, I'll shake it off. It's got to be tough.
One quick rant, Kratzy, from me. Can we get C-flaps mandatory? Like, I know, like, if I would have played, I would have had the C-flap is the thing on the one flap helmet that kind of covers your face, like right here on the cheek. Like, can we make those mandatory? I mean, I remember Terry Steinbach was like the only guy who wore it forever. and then Stanton got hit in the face, and more guys started wearing it. But can we make that mandatory on all helmets, that whatever side of the plate you hit from, we get the little flap here just to protect and hopefully save some of this when it does happen. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's usually pretty bad.
And Milwaukee actually, I don't know if they're still doing it, but they had made it mandatory in 2018 from Double-A down that guys have the C flaps. And, to me, that's the way to do it. You get guys used to it and you get them going into it. I mean, for a little bit, it was kind of swaggy to have the C flap. It was part of, it was part of something to have. I understand a guy like Turner's been around for a long time and he's used to it not being a different feel, but hopefully I would love the mandatory C flap. I think it's something, even in high school, it just can save so much damage, and they make them great now where you can move them so it's like up closer if it doesn't bother you in your vision, or you can put it far enough down where it's just covering the jaw. But it's
do you make your son wear one? I make my son wear it.
My son's actually a switch hitter. He has one on both.
Oh,
double
okay.
flaps.
I'm not buying him 2 helmets.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're rich, dude. You just talked about how big your house was, dude. Get him 2 helmets, cheapskate.
No chance. Then he's got to carry him around, and who's inevitably going to carry his bag and put it in the car? Nope. 1 helmet, 2 flaps.
Does it look badass?
It looks like kind of like a cheap Wolverine.
Does he look like what's his Kazoo from the Flintstones with the big helmet and then the things on the side?
No, he looks like Reese Hoskins. So we're in Philly here. So Reese Hoskins, he broke his chin or his jawline right here. So he had to wear 2 for a while. So it's kind of, people are like, oh, that's pretty sweet.
No, I would say at some point he's going to be like, all right, screw it. I'm getting the 2 helmets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If your
One
son
side or the
doesn't
other.
have 2 helmets by this summer, I'm going to be disappointed. I'm going to let him know. I'll buy him the other helmet.
And he can carry his own bag if he wants the 2 helmets.
Fair.
All right, number 2, Chris Sale, 2 scoreless spring training debut Monday against the Tigers. Quotes from him in the Boston Globe. I got it back. I appreciate it more. I'm trying to have more fun with it. I'm trying to be more open-minded. I'm trying to kind of soak some things in and really appreciate it. Chris Sale going to be a stud this year again? No one's talking about him.
If he's healthy, yes. 100%. If he's healthy, he is one of the best pitchers in baseball. And Chris, here's your shout out, call out, whatever you want to call it. Dude, we talked about this show last summer in Fort Myers when you were doing rehab, and you were like, I want to come on. Reached out to you a couple of times, Chris. I'm waiting on you because there's a lot of things we can talk about as my old locker mate next to me when you first came up. So let's go, Chris. I appreciate you're having fun, but I'm looking at Baseball Reference. Come on and prove me right. They're saying you're going to go 4-4 with a 3.76. I got you way above those numbers, way more innings, way more strikeouts. So, Chris, let's talk about it. Get your butt on here on Foul Territory with us.
Absolutely. I want to hear from this guy because there's very few pitchers that you look at over the last 10 years that you're like, holy crap, like this is going to be, he's not only got incredible stuff, but he comes after you. He is a absolute competitor. I wish I had an opportunity to play with him. I didn't, but to say he's not going to do well, like the guy has the highest in the history of baseball, the highest strikeout per 9 with that many innings. And in the last 2 years that he's been healthy, he's actually above those numbers. He's got 11.1 strikeout per 9 and a 5.33 K to walk ratio. The dude punches out the world and he doesn't walk anybody. Like, what else are you looking for? Obviously, this is the time of year when, we always say, oh, if he stays healthy, he stays healthy. Nobody's going into the season saying, I'm probably going to get hurt. So, I don't really know what I'm going to do this year. No, he's got to be ready to go. And he will make, I don't know where Boston's going to go. We'll probably talk about it at some point, but he could be an interesting trade piece if he puts up 12 strikeouts a game for the first 2 months of the season.
I mean, the reason that BB Rep's dinging him is just because of the innings. He hasn't pitched much. He's had just a whole heap of injuries over the years.
Just stay off a bike, Chris. All right, stay off a bike. Don't stick your bare hand out on your first start back.
Yep.
Right when the line drive comes at you, and just pitch. Just pitch. Have fun. You're one of the best dudes I've been around. One of the best guys. You learn from Mark Burley, or you were next to me for a couple years. Like, just go out there, pitch, and come on our show.
He's one of my favorite pitchers for a long time too. 2 years left on his deal with Boston, $55 million for 2023 and 2024. So his house is big as well. I want to ask him about food because apparently he really changed the diet. He said, I used to show up on game day with a bag of McDonald's or Taco Bell.
Yes,
is that true?
Oh, yes, he did. I'd always try to, we already talked about this at Wrigley. I'd try to sneak a couple fries or a cheeseburger when he would leave it out.
You'd be stealing Chris's food?
I tried.
That's why he's so damn
dude, he weighs 100. Well,
that's what I'm saying.
He weighs like
Let him
150 pounds. He's like, when I saw him, he's like, I'm jacked. I'm up to like 190, and he's still this big around. I'm like, dude, 190?
Would you eat a burger?
So would you take a bite of his burger and put it back and
no,
wrap it back
I wouldn't. I would eat the whole burger because I wanted the whole burger. I'm not the take a bite, put it back guy.
You're a finisher. You're not just going to let that linger. So Chris Sale, at some point, we'll get him on. But congrats on the debut. He's back. World Baseball Classic starts tonight. Cuba against Netherlands. AJ will be live streaming his commentary
I will be
for the entire game, Kratzy. I cannot wait. AJ Pierzynski on Twitter Spaces with his commentary. Him and me are essentially going to call the game. And it's a great matchup, too. You've got Yohan Moncada, Yoenis Cespedes, who I haven't seen in a minute. Luis Robert is on Team Cuba. And Netherlands member, I think it was 2 World Baseball Classics back, made it, to the finals. Xander Bogaerts and Vladimir Valentin, who's still playing somehow. One of the legends in WBC history.
Where's Kenley Jansen catching for the Netherlands? Can we get
Kenley's
that
not going
please?
this year. No, that'd be great. Kenley's not going this year, but he did catch, right? What was that?
The first one or the second?
Was it maybe the second?
2009.
2009.
I played against him. They played a prep game down in Bradenton. I was with the Pirates on the minor league side, and this dude he never even stood up to throw to second base. And I was like, man, this is the tallest catcher I've ever seen. Obviously, he became Kenley Jansen then.
Well, I mean, Netherlands have a good team, though. Cuba obviously is Cuba, and they have always represented well their country. But Netherlands is sneaky good. I mean, not only Bogaerts, you got Profar, right? You got, Kenley Jansen's not there. Vladimir Valentin's been one of the best players of all time. I mean, the Netherlands are sneaky good. Remember they had Bert Blyleven as their pitching coach and pitchers no one had ever heard of and make runs into like the quarterfinals and the semifinals with, the orange pinstripes on their uniforms and the Dutch crown. I mean, they're a good story.
The problem they're going to have is pitching. You know who's pitching for them on their roster at least? Jair Jurgens.
There you go. Another blast from the past.
That is an absolute blast from the past.
Braves
so he's
great.
On there. I can't say I recognize most of the other. There's some minor leaguers.
Is there Drew Verhagen? He's got to be on there.
I don't see him on here. I don't see Drew. There is a
lot
of
Vanden Hurk.
Yeah, I mean Franklin Von Gerp of the York Revolution in the Atlantic League.
Stud.
Is Diego Markwell on there?
And see, now I can't tell if you guys are just fucking with me, bringing up random names like is Lord whatever on there?
Lord Farquhar on there from Shrek.
No, Mark. There's no M last name, at least pitcher wise, if that's what you're asking. But
okay.
Chadwick Tromp, who's a big league catcher. Position player wise, this is a decent team. Jonathan Scope, who's streaky,
Albies, right?
He can pop off. Albies, I don't think, he's coming off the injury.
Oh, okay.
Is Ozzy?
He's Curacao.
He's Curacao?
Is he? Yeah, 99% sure.
He's not on there.
Okay.
But here's your infielders. Bogaerts, Didi, Profar, and both of those, Bogaerts and, or not Bogaerts, Didi and Profar are free agents. Scope's on there. Looks like Scope's brother. It says Charlin Scope. Is on there. Andrelton Simmons, another free agent.
Simba.
That's a decent infield. I like that.
Throw one of them guys in the outfield, Profar.
That's a good idea.
Xander probably plays short, right?
Roger Bernardina.
Oh, another
remember that name?
Oriole great.
Yes. Richie Palacios, who's a decent player on the Cleveland Guardians right now. All right, let's get more. Oh, wait. Hold on. Now we're waiting. Ken was about ready to go. And
Ken,
he's on a phone
we got to
call.
get into Ken because he told me, we spoke earlier today, Kratz, I don't think that's a name drop, but we were
No.
discussing something. But he told me he's got 10 games on the WBC in 12 days, so he's gearing up big time, and he's going to go see Team USA and Team Mexico practice today. So he's all about the WBC.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. I love international baseball. I mean, I'm no JP Morosi, but
Nobody is.
I definitely love international baseball. I think we went through Netherlands roster there. You can't say the Netherlands can't beat you. I mean, if Jair Jurgens is going to throw, whatever he's throwing up there, if he's throwing strikes and it might be under the hitting speed, he might give you 5 innings. He might, you might get Xander to pop a homer out and you're up 3-2 all of a sudden going into the 8th inning. Now all of a sudden everybody's butt gets a little bit tighter. Like it's win now mentality. And I think international baseball needs to have more flair, more opportunity to shine on a national stage with the Olympics just happening. That got a little bit of pub, but I think it's something I love international baseball.
It's going to be a good one. This is a good way to start things off. These are two solid ball clubs going at it. Let's bring in Ken Rosenthal right now, how many games in how many days, AJ?
10 and 12 days, Ken. You're going to be a tired
games
little
in
pup.
12 days. All right. Good luck on the sleep schedule. Ken, happy almost opening World Baseball Classic day. How you doing?
I'm doing well, guys. And by the way, 10 games in 12 days, bring it on.
Yeah, you're getting 2 days off, Ken. What are you
Postseason.
complaining about?
I'll be writing too, AJ. How about that?
Oh, writing. I'm
Dude.
sorry. Your fingers might get tired from typing on your computer.
Hey, Ken, are you going to watch
Brandon,
this
it's
first
not
game?
it's not like sitting behind the plate. I will grant you that.
Ken, you watching this first game, Netherlands and Cuba at 11 o'clock Eastern time? I've been trying to say AJ's going to go live and give commentary on this thing on social media, and AJ's like, nah, I'll be sleeping.
Well, I heard him say that, and I am quite confident that he is not lying about that. But I am going to check out the game. I'm interested to see Cuba play because, as you guys were talking about, they have a number of major leaguers who were willing to play for them this go around. It's always been a tricky political thing with a lot of the guys. A lot of the players do not want to play for Cuba. They left Cuba for a reason. And obviously that is going to be a team to watch.
Where's Yoelqui Cespedes, by the way? I see Yoelqui's different guy named Yoelquis, but I was looking. Yoenis Cespedes, who I haven't seen in a hot minute. I'm just curious to see what he looks like. I mean, he disappeared for a few years, Ken.
You know what, guys? I have something to tell you about Cespedes that surprised me when I heard it for the first time the other day. I was talking to Bob Melvin, the manager of the Padres. He used to be the manager of the A's. And he told me Cespedes was one of his all-time favorite players. He loved having him. They had a great relationship. And I don't know. I never perceived Cespedes as being that kind of guy. Ichiro is one of Melvin's other favorites, going back to their days in Seattle together. But Cespedes, he is always an intriguing figure. And yes, Scott, I'm with you. I'm interested to see him too.
I will be watching. I go to sleep late.
I've heard that, though, from people that played with Cespedes. They said he was amazing as a teammate. Like,
really?
Great in the clubhouse, great off the field, funny as heck, just like to have a good time. Now, did he make some questionable decisions, as far as whenever he broke his ankle with the Mets and doing some other crazy stuff? Yeah, but they said when he was there and he was healthy, he was one of the best.
Heard the same thing. And the guy was the catalyst for that Oakland team, and they traded him away, and that team faded in 2014. And I think he was maybe an underrated player, but I would love to see him, like you, Bronny.
Hey, Ken, before we get into some other news around the league, being that Kratzy just spoke, I know this topic is near and dear to your heart. Eric Kratz got into maybe I don't know if it was his first, but it was definitely his biggest Twitter beef with the Twitter sphere. So, Kratzy, do you want to tell the story to Ken? And he can give you some advice too, because Ken deals with his 1 billion Twitter followers, whatever. So go ahead, Kratzy. He'll give you a little therapeutic advice.
This is small potatoes for you here. So, my 12 teen followers that I have, but I deflected some of what the Heat was getting on Hicksy, my guy trying to make left field for the Yankees. He dropped the ball, and about 9 seconds later, he picked it up and O'Neal Cruz, which doesn't have an apostrophe on it. My phone accidentally auto-corrected to O'Neal. It's near St. Patty's Day.
Heaven
It's
forbid.
not my fault. But 9 seconds later, he was just rounding first base, and all I said was great hustle, and I got eviscerated.
Twitter is a very interesting place, Eric, and I don't know that I can give you any advice. If you never say anything remotely controversial, then you'll never have a problem. But if you dare criticize a player on a fan's favorite team, it's coming back at you. And I often just ignore it. I generally do not respond at all to people because it's kind of out of control. And the one thing I've noticed always, and you guys know this too from playing, it's a different thing with me, but you can recall this kind of thing too. You might hear from fans in the stands, right? They might be yelling at you, booing you, whatever. They meet you. Hey, great to meet you. I'm such a fan. And I hear that all the time. I see on Twitter all these people giving me a bunch of grief. And then whenever I meet fans, oh, I love you. I love everything. Yeah, right, whatever. So probably the best thing is not to take Twitter all that seriously.
Okay, I appreciate that. I won't take it seriously. Fortunately, I was able to sleep last night, but I appreciate the...
And let's face it, Eric, the reality is he didn't hustle, right? So what you said was completely true. People don't like it, too bad.
That's the thing.
I didn't see there was going to be that much backlash from a guy who clearly, it's not like it was my opinion. He just didn't get the second. And so I enjoyed it.
No, Kratzy, you should do that. Kratzy, you're an analyst. I want to hear your opinion on the play. Hey, if I'm with O'Neal Cruz on his team, you're a veteran guy that's been around the league, you might be like, hey, let's run it out, which actually gets me to the first topic with Ken.
Hold on.
No, this
Ken, what Eric's really mad about is they brought up his -0.1 WAR, -0.1 WAR. That's what really got Eric mad. That's what got him, was the negative WAR. And he's like, well, defending it with pitching. I mean, that's what
I'll
really
tell you
got
what,
him.
AJ, you know this too. How many fans out there, people on Twitter trolling Eric, would like to have played in the big leagues and had a whatever it is, -0.1 WAR?
Everyone.
How many years did you play, Eric? How many years were you in the big leagues?
Parts of 11.
All right. I would think the average person watching this, the average person in the stands, the average person, period, would have given a lot to play 11 parts of 11 years in the major leagues. That's the thing. I mean, what you guys have accomplished just by getting there, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's why.
And I'm not just saying that; it's the truth.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and that's why I commented, because there's no I also commented on it too. I said, did somebody hurt? Somebody said, oh, did it hurt your feelings? I said, I played in the minor leagues long enough. I have no feelings. Baseball took them from me. So it is really tough to hurt my feelings, but we'll try on this show. We will definitely try.
Yeah, this was a good therapy session. I needed this. Okay, so Kratzy, as he should, saying, hey, I'd like to see O'Neal Cruz run it out. I know it's spring training, but that ball was in the air and then dropped for 1,000,000 seconds, and O'Neal was still there. Getting me to Ken's article put up on The Athletic this morning. I believe you're at Angels camp. You've got a few notes from there, including Ohtani. But one of the things that stood out to me was Phil Nevin saying, like, he's never got to worry about the hustle. Like, Ohtani is booking it to first. Trout is always booking it to first and around the bases. So kind of the opposite of what we saw there.
Well, two things on this, and it goes back to what we were just discussing with Eric. So I posted that article, and what it was regarding Ohtani were two things that I had not heard much about. And one was Nevin saying he's the smartest player he's ever been around. And I said, whoa, Phil, you had a long playing career. You've been a coach, you've been a manager. That can't be. Give me some comps to him from your career of guys who were really smart. And he mentioned two Hall of Famers. Jeff Bagwell was one, Tony Gwynn was the other. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But, and I'll get to the home to first stuff, the first comment on the article this morning when I look at it was, Ken, thanks a lot. Tell me something I don't know about Ohtani. That was really enlightening. That guy being sarcastic. Here we go. I didn't respond. Now, on Ohtani's speed, this is the other thing that Nevin pointed out that was really interesting. He said, you look it up. Home to first, he's the fastest guy in the league. Now, Ohtani isn't quite the fastest, in terms of pure speed necessarily. There are guys who don't play as much who might be a little faster, but I believe the cutoff was 1,000 competitive runs in a season, something like that. Competitive runs to first base. I believe he was first in 2021 and second last year, something like that, in average time home to first. That's incredible, considering one, the guy's a power hitter, and two, he is also a pitcher. So it's something that about Ohtani, when you watch him go home to first, a man that big, doing that and flying the way he does and running as hard as he does, going back to the O'Neill Cruz situation, though it was only spring training, it's pretty impressive.
Ken, first of all, it takes him like 4 steps to get to first base, so he should be the fastest one. I mean, his steps are like 5 yards long every time. I mean, it's incredible. And Dino Ebel, when I did a game, I don't know if you were there with Fox or not, but he always said, who's the third base coach for the Angels, or he was, I'm not sure if he's still there, but he's the best athlete he's ever seen. And Dino Ebel has coached for a lot of teams. I think he's with the Dodgers now, but he was like, he's the best athlete I've ever seen on a baseball field. And again, it doesn't surprise me, but it's always a good thing on a team when your best players, Trout, Ohtani, are running the hardest, because then it doesn't give the other guys a reason to say, well, Mike Trout's not running. Well, yes, he is. He's busting his tail down there. So I love to hear these kind of things.
Right, and Nevin made the point that Trout does exactly the same thing, just as you said, AJ. But the one thing I wasn't completely aware of was this field awareness, the savvy that Ohtani has. Basically, Nevin said that he's aware of every opponent, everyone he's ever faced, everyone on the other team. He knows the players. He knows what's going on. He will go to Nevin and suggest certain things, and Nevin will say, whoa, I hadn't thought of that. So you put the entire package together, the athleticism, the effort, the work ethic, and the smarts. Well, that's why he's Shohei Ohtani.
That's why he's going to get about $700 million on the free agent market.
Exactly. As he should. He deserves it. He's 2 players in one. Go ahead, Kratzy.
No, I won't make you negotiate Ohtani's contract here quite yet. We'll wait till maybe April when you negotiate Ohtani's next contract. But dive into the Giants offseason. Everybody's going to talk about who they missed out on. I want to hear what you have to say of who they got, because I think there's some intriguing players in there, but I first want to hear who you have to say, and do you think they are better than the team they were last year?
Well, the focus, obviously, Eric, has been on the 2 guys they didn't get, Aaron Judge, Carlos Correa, and that's understandable. They're 2 of the best players in the game. But they did sign 7 free agents for almost $200 million. Now, one of them was Jock Peterson on a qualifying offer. But they also brought in Michael Conforto and Mitch Haniger for the rotation, Sean Manaea and Ross Stripling, and then in the bullpen, Taylor Rogers. So that's a pretty impressive haul. And I forgot Luke Jackson. He was in that mix as well in the bullpen. They feel that their roster, Gabe Kapler actually told me this, is the best it's been at this point since Kapler got there. Now I said, whoa. 2021, you won 107 games. And his point was, we're deeper. And they feel also that their young talent is better than it's been in recent years. They've got some guys coming. They even like their Rule 5 pick, a catcher. So I don't know how confident they actually should be. Are they the Padres? No. Are they the Dodgers? No. But they feel their rotation in particular is incredibly deep. They've got the 5 starters. They've got guys behind them, including the prospect Kyle Harrison. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out for them. The one flaw that they have is defense, and they didn't really address that. And that, of course, could be a fatal flaw for a team. But at the same time, if you guys remember last year, just right at this time, what were guys like me writing about? The Phillies' defense stinks. They're going to be terrible because of it. Even with all the slugging, it's going to be a problem. It was a problem at times, but it also got better. And they did some different things, brought in some different players. Bryson Stott got in the mix. And obviously, they had a pretty good year.
Ken, I like their rotation. I don't love it. The Rodon loss, I think, is going to be huge. He was so good for them last year. I like generally what they did, getting the quantity. Definitely was quantity over quality. Here's the problem I have when I talk to Giants fans. They missed out on the 2 guys you just mentioned, right? They've went after Bryce Harper in the past. They've went after Giancarlo Stanton in the past. I like having the depth and making sure you have a really solidly stacked roster like this. But I mean, I'm in Orlando now most of the time here with AJ, and the Tampa Bay Rays have more of a franchise player than the San Francisco Giants do, and say a Wander Franco, even though he really is early on in his career. I think is it fair to say a franchise player problem? You don't need it to be a champion, but San Francisco is such a big, strong market. I think they feel a little bit, I don't want to say embarrassed, but they're like, where are our superstars that we can talk about for the next 5 to 10 years, especially when they're looking over at a team like the Dodgers and a team like the Padres now? That's the one thing. I'm not saying that it definitely correlates into wins, but do you think that it's something that's bugging the San Francisco Giants organization, or does Farhan Zaidi and company just not care about that and they're just looking at piling up wins?
Scott, that observation is entirely fair. Let's face it. They know it. They went after Judge. They went after Correa, and their intention in both cases, they had an agreement with Correa, was to bring in that type of player. They are missing somewhat of an identity. They need a face of the franchise. Since Buster Posey left, they haven't had that guy. And even Buster, great player, potential Hall of Famer, he was one guy, right? So it is something they tried to address this offseason. They didn't address it. The point of what they're saying is they still think their team will be very competitive. And I can see scenarios where that indeed will be the case. I'm with you on Rodon. I agree the rotation is mostly beyond Webb, 2s and 3s and 4s, 3s and 4s really. But at the same time, it is about winning. And in 2021, yes, they had Posey and they had Brandon Crawford, who of course has been there forever, and Brandon Belt, but they weren't really a star-laden team then, and they did it in a way that was a little bit different. So left with what they have, and what they have they like, they're going to have to go about it this way. But I would expect that they will play for Ohtani in the offseason like everyone else, and they're going to keep trying for superstars. It just hasn't lined up for them yet.
Ken, on the same Giants thing, I don't feel like they did enough. Again, it's kind of off of what Scott said, but Jock Peterson, franchise tag, right? Got or whatever they call it, the franchise qualifying offer.
Yeah.
Sorry, he's basically a platoon guy, right? They gave him a ton of money. Sean Manaea can't pitch against the Dodgers. I mean, he's got like a 15 ERA in his career against the Dodgers. The Padres didn't even put him on the playoff roster, I don't think, last year because of that. They didn't want him to have to come into a game and start. Conforto hasn't played in 2 years. Haniger's been good, but he's been hurt a lot. Now, I know this is a Gabe Kapler type team where he likes to mix and match, and 2 years ago they were the best at it probably I've ever seen, but Brandon Crawford is old now, had a really hard time last year. I mean, is there enough there for them to compete with the Dodgers and Padres? I know of course they're going to say we're the Giants, but I just don't know there's enough there.
Vegas doesn't think so. They've got them for like 78 wins.
Yeah, I just don't see it. I mean, I appreciate the moves they made, but I don't know. Prove me wrong, Ken. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Guys, I'm acting like, or you're putting me in a position where I should be like the Giants PR person.
You are.
But I'm just relaying or conveying, and when I did this in what I wrote today, where they feel they are. And listen, it's spring training, guys. You have to filter everything knowing that even the lowliest teams are optimistic. But what I'm saying is they see scenarios where they can be competitive and really competitive. And keep in mind, we have 3 wild cards now. Do I see them getting one? No, it's going to take a lot of things to go right and perhaps some work at the deadline as well. But I think what a lot of people, including myself, really fail to realize is that they did a number of things around the edges. Now, they're not sexy things. And Manaea, those questions that, AJ, you just raised are entirely fair. His velocity is up this spring, which is kind of intriguing. But if they get some of these kids that they're talking about into the mix throughout the season and some things go right with some of their others, Stripling's going to get a good chance here to be a full-time starter. Logan Webb is really good. I can see where it will be a positive season for them, a good season. But all the things you guys are saying, entirely fair. No superstar, no massive slugger, and you lose Carlos Rodon, I don't care who you bring in, you're losing something. This guy is one of the best pitchers in the game. So that combined with the defensive questions, these are all legitimate things, especially now with the shift restrictions, less than athletic middle infield. Brandon Crawford, I love him, not what he used to be in the field defensively. There's no question about that. So, yeah, we'll see what happens, but that's what they are saying. That's how they feel about where they stand.
Yeah, they have. You mentioned they have threes in that rotation. To me, they're a three at best in the division right now. They're a three, maybe even a four if Arizona makes noise. So a couple
We
other
would
things,
all agree with that. And
right?
Arizona
You
might
have
make
to.
noise. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. A couple other things from the article. One fun one, and then AJ is going to hit you on Jacob deGrom. But did you know the Jake Cronenworth story? So we read your article this morning, and you said Jake. Go. Actually, you should. You're the troll, so go get him.
I'm the
Tell
troll.
him.
I'm the
Yeah.
Twitter troll now.
Tell him.
Yeah. So did you know that Jake, who you wrote about, is no longer Jake? He's Jacob, and he's been Jacob his whole life.
Oh,
And
you know what?
so
Here it
I
is,
did
Ken.
know this. I should change that. I will change that as soon as we're off.
Okay,
Hey,
thank you.
AJ's your editor now.
Because Ken, here's the thing. Like I remember we did a Rockies Brewers series in the playoffs one year, and we were calling Nolan Arenado, everyone was saying Nolan Arenado, and the Rockies PR guy kept saying it's Arenado, like the pirate. So every time I do a Cardinals game, I make sure I'm like Nolan Arenado. So now when I do a Padres game, I'm gonna have to just be like Jacob Cronenworth, right? No more Crone Zone, no more whatever Orsillo.
No, you can still do
Well, it
Chrome
can be
Zone.
Crone Zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's just because Orsillo wants to get Jumbo Jacks from Jack in the Box when they do those commercials together.
No, but what's crazy to me is that
Nobody knew, nobody asked.
The league just said Jake, and I'm actually, well, depending on what round he was drafted, and I do most of the draft, so I probably said his name. They feed me the name that I'm supposed to say. It probably said Jake Cronenworth, but he goes by Jacob. Machado was calling him Jacob. They're like, why are you calling him Jacob? He's like, he is Jacob. That's what everyone calls him except for the damn media because the league labeled him Jake, and then they just ran with it, which the crazy thing to me, Ken, is he's been in the league now for a bit. Like, he's got dirt in his spikes. Tell someone, hey, I'm going by Jacob now. Like, we're nice people in baseball. We would have called him Jacob for years.
Well, this member of the damned media is going to fix that article as soon as we're off. And as for Jacob, he's one of the nicest guys in the league, I would say. In a league that has a lot of nice guys, it's not kind of when I came up when the players were a little bit surlier. So I can see him not ever wanting to correct anybody and not even caring all that much about it. But thank you, AJ, for the editing advice, and I will get to it.
You're welcome, Ken. I'm here to help your life
Always
get
here to help.
easier. So,
I know
and then
you are.
also the article today, I wasn't going to get on you about that. I was trying to let Scott, I'm the troll now, the Twitter troll. You wrote about Jacob deGrom, and he wants to go to Cooperstown. And as a player, every player that I think that plays and at some point is like, man, I'd love to get to Cooperstown. Now, here's the thing for me with deGrom. I faced deGrom. He was as good as anybody I ever faced. He's not a Hall of Famer for me because he hasn't pitched enough. And I know there's qualifications for that, but for him to talk about that, he just signed a 5-year deal in Texas. He needs 5 healthy, good years, and he's a little bit up there in age. So I don't see it right now. And I also, as he gets older, I don't know that he could do that.
Well, I don't see it right now either, AJ. But at the same time, it's always intriguing to me to hear a player talk like that. Because let's face it, yes, every player's goal is to make the Hall of Fame, of course. But there are very few players who are ever vocal about it because it doesn't always come off right? So Justin Verlander, from the time he was a young pitcher, has had that as a goal, and he's talked about it. And for deGrom to talk about it after the seasons that he's had, and he first mentioned this in 2021 when he was not quite in this injury mode that he has been in. He was not healthy that year, but it was at the start of that season. And at that time, it certainly looked like he could be on a Hall of Fame track. But what I'm saying is for him to say that now, coming off what he's come off the last 2 years for sure, it's intriguing to me because the guy still has that in his head. And he still wants to do that. He wants to pitch 200 innings a season or wants to make 30-plus starts. Listen, based on the last couple of years, we all know it might be a pipe dream. But that's his mindset, and that is something he wants to accomplish. Now, strictly from a Cooperstown resume, he's not there yet. And I pointed this out in the article. Sandy Koufax, a pitcher whose career ended at 30, at a time when starting pitchers threw a lot more innings than they do today. He finished his career with 2,300 innings. And again, did not pitch after he was 30 years old. deGrom is at about 1,300, about 1,000 less. Dizzy Dean is probably the starting pitcher in the American League National League group from 1900 on who has the fewest innings, and he's at 1,900. So he's about 600 ahead of deGrom. Yes, obviously, deGrom is going to have to pitch a lot in the next 5 years to make this case for Cooperstown. If he does and he's really good, it's going to be an interesting discussion. But he knows that, and his first goal this season is to stay on the mound. And he knows how important that is, obviously, to his team, to his career, and all of that. So Texas is a fresh start for him. Not that it was going badly in New York at all, but I'm interested to see, of course, how Jacob deGrom pitches, because I don't know about you guys, how you feel, but when he pitches, to me, it's reminiscent of Pedro Martinez. It's an event, and I love it.
So Ken, so you wouldn't vote for him right now, right? You're
No.
saying, okay, good, because that makes me feel better since you didn't vote for me on the Hall of Fame ballot. and we actually had a discussion about. We had a discussion about
stating your case.
No, I'm already off the ballot. I got my 2 votes, and I knew who they were. So thank you. They know who they are, and one of them was not Ken.
AJ, there are a lot of players who I do not vote for.
Oh, no, you're so politically correct, Ken. I mean, you could have wasted one of your 10 on me, got me to 3, so I could have outdone Eric Karros by 1.
What was the year you were on the ballot?
Last year.
When was that?
Or
last year.
22, I guess. Yeah, last year when David got in.
I think
that was last year.
I'm pretty sure I did vote for 10. Maybe not.
Well, you could have taken out I don't know, somebody.
But here's the problem, and here's how I'll close the discussion. And I'm going to go right back to the beginning of the discussion. If I vote for A.J. Pierzynski, who is a friend of mine and someone who I actually quite admired in his career, one of the most durable catchers, first of our generation, but really of all time. If I had voted for him, those Twitter trolls would have had a complete meltdown. How disrespectful is it to waste a vote on A.J. Pierzynski, who's never getting to the Hall of Fame? Take away Ken's ballot. I can go on and on. And that's not why I vote one way or the other, because you're going to hear it no matter who you vote for. I'm just saying, AJ, it might have caused a little bit of a stir.
So what? Who cares, Ken?
It's an underrepresented position, too. Ken, appreciate it.
It is an underrepresented position.
It is. I'm just saying, we'll do that another day. Max Muncy's been chilling, waiting for us. So, Ken, appreciate it. Enjoy WBC tonight. I'll try and wake up AJ at 11 o'clock this evening. We'll talk to you later this week.
Thanks, guys.
Ken Rosenthal with us. Max Muncy joining us in just a second. He's in the waiting room.
He's the best.
That's good. That is good stuff right there.
We've talked about every time Ken comes on, man, you learn something. He's informative articles, and I always try to take things to him when I hear things.
Uh-huh.
And he's always like, well, I got to get it confirmed by 17 sources before I can print this. And I'm like, dude, I only know one person. And the person's telling this to me directly. Yep, that's not enough for me.
Yeah, well, you're throwing shit out there from one human being who might
but
be
it's the person in the story.
Oh, well.
Like, I'll tell him.
I don't know the rules for journalism.
I'll call Ken and
like
I'll say,
that.
Ken's always like, if you hear something, let me know. Because Ken was always kind of my guy when I played. And, if I hear something. So I'd be like, hey, Ken, I heard so-and-so might get traded. And he's like, well, who'd you hear that from? And I'm like, the person. And he's like, not good enough for me. Or this guy's going to sign here. Well, who'd you hear that from? The person signing the contract. Not good enough for me. I got to get it, confirmed by
but
12
just
people.
To be fair, Kratzy, like if AJ says he heard from a player that he's going to be dealt, it still might not be true.
No doubt, because the player doesn't know.
No,
Ken's going way deeper. Ken's going way deeper than the player.
No, I'm talking about free agent signings. Like, I would talk to guys in the offseason and be like, Eric Kratz is signing with the Omaha Storm Chasers. Well, how do you know? I just talked to him for 2 hours on television. He told me, nope, not good enough for me. I'm like, Ken.
Well, were you right when you would say that?
Yes, I was right.
And then they would sign?
Yes, and they'd be like, someone else beat me to it. I'm like, Ken, I gave it to you 3 days ago. Well, it didn't have it confirmed.
Really, it's on him, Kratzy, because he could have reported it himself if he was on social media.
But I wouldn't do that to my guys. I'd always ask the player too. I'd ask my guys, my buddies, and I'm sure Eric's the same way. Like, I'd say, like, hey, can I give this to Ken Rosenthal? And they'd be like, yeah, sure. Or some guys would say, no, not let me get my physical, let me get it signed.
Right.
Right. But I would always ask that. Like, it's like when someone asks for somebody's phone number. Like if someone comes to me and says, hey, I want Eric Kratz's phone number. Well, let me ask him first if I can give it to him, because I don't want to just be handing it out.
That's part of the friendship dues. Like you can't just be handing out somebody else's phone number. But you also, I think that's what makes Ken great. One, he knows so much about baseball. He is a baseball fan, incredible writer. But two, that dude is working.
Yes, he is. He's hustling.
He is hustling.
Hey, let's get to Max Muncy right now. He's ready to go. Joining us, making his Foul Territory debut. Max, great to have you on. Really appreciate it. We're excited to have you on throughout the season, too. Where are you right now? Because you've got some beautiful artwork behind you.
Get that one out of the picture, but I'm in Arizona right now, so it's my daughter loves the picture of the horse, so we got it in the house.
Nice. I love it. Hey, I want to start, on a tougher note here, just because it's one of your boys. Justin Turner hit by the pitch in his face yesterday. We covered it earlier. I'm sure you've sent him a text, something like that. It was good to see. Scan's good. No facial fracture, has the stitches. Courtney was tweeting that he gets home right away and he wants to listen to the game. So did you get to see it and communicate with him at all?
Yeah, that sounds exactly like him. Just not going to take any time off from that one. I actually sent him a couple texts last night. He responded back. Seemed like he was doing pretty good. I mean, I'm sure there was, he had some things running through his system, but he seemed like he was in pretty good spirits. It was tough to see. We all saw it happen in the clubhouse, and we were, devastated to see it. That's our guy, but thankfully he's doing good, and thankfully it's not as bad as what it looked like it could have been.
Max, you don't wear a C-flap, right? You don't wear a C-flap when you hit?
When they first came out with them and everyone started wearing it, I tried one, and every swing I took, the helmet came flying off my head, and I said, you know what? I'll just wear it if it happens. I'm not doing this. Okay,
fair enough. No, so people out there don't really know your story, right? From Baylor and with the A's, and you kind of were up and down. And Kratz got into this a little bit earlier. Can you just tell us your story from the A's to now where you are as an all-star player for the Dodgers?
Yeah. I was my last year coming into Oakland. I was kind of more there just like as a insurance guy if anyone got hurt. And sure enough, no one got hurt. And when spring training was over, they basically said that they didn't see any role for me with their team, and they didn't want me taking any at bats from guys they had in the minor leagues at the time. So they released me, and at that point in my career, in my life, I was actually kind of happy about it. I was pretty done with baseball. I wasn't having any fun. It was a dark place for me. I wasn't enjoying it at all. So I went home, sat on the couch. A couple of weeks, opening day happens, and you're seeing all your friends get out there and get called on the line, and the fireworks are going off, and that kind of reinvigorated me a little bit. And so I started getting to work. I still didn't have a job at this time, but I started getting to work on changing my swing and just changing my mentality. Most importantly, going through some mental stuff. I feel like that was the biggest changes that I always made, was just having a different attitude about baseball. And finally, I got a call from the Dodgers, and they said, "Hey, we can put you in Double-A if you're okay with that." And I was like, "Yeah, I just want to play." Then that was right away. I knew it was just different. Just understanding that I was going to be in Double-A, but I just wanted to have a job and play. Sign with the Dodgers, come over here. I get sent to Arizona to do all the physicals and blood work and that kind of stuff. And when that finished up, they actually had some injuries happen. And I believe that was right around the time that Cody Bellinger got called up. And so they had a spot open in AAA, and they sent me there. And then I ended up having one of my best seasons that I'd ever had. And then the next year, signed back with them, and kind of the rest is history.
So this is from somebody who signs a lot of AAA contracts. Like you're reinvigorated after you had just reached your life goal, make the big leagues with the A's, and you're like, God, I'm kind of over the game. And you redid everything, you changed your swing up, and then you absolutely balled out in AAA. Most people don't look at AAA numbers. You killed it. You re-sign with them, and then you go to camp, and you don't make the team out of camp. It's like April, I think I looked it up, April 17th maybe? You get called up?
Yeah.
Are you pissed at the end of camp when that happens?
Well, no. So at the end of 17, I was pissed that I didn't get called up after having that year. But at the same time, I also understood because when you looked at that team they had in 17, there was no spots to be filled. There was no reason to call anyone up. The only spot that needed to be filled was they needed a shortstop because Seager's arm was hurting, and that was when they called up Charlie Culberson. Just the baseball mind in me completely understood why I didn't get called up in 17, but I was also mad about it. So I didn't really want to sign back with them coming into 18. They were like, why don't you want to sign back? And I was like, well, I didn't get a chance to even just, come up in September and just play a game here or there after the year I just had. And, I'm going to go somewhere where I can get a chance. And then, the more reasonable minded that I had kind of spoke out and was like, hey, you're comfortable here. You just had a great year. There's something to be said for being with an organization that you feel comfortable with that was willing to give you kind of a second chance. And so I stuck it out. And then that spring I come in and I had a really good spring. But it's actually a funny story. We actually had this sickness that went around the clubhouse in spring. And it stemmed from the hot tub. Like 40 of the guys ended up getting sick to a point where they couldn't even get out of bed for like 4 or 5 days. Something went around and that was people were getting in the hot tub. I never got in there, so I didn't get sick, and it allowed me to play 8 or 9 of the first 10 games. And I was playing like 7 innings in every one of those games. And that kind of put me on the radar, but I finally got that day off. Everyone started getting healthy and I popped my oblique that first day off. Didn't even happen in a game. I had a day off taking batting practice and popped my oblique. So I actually think that was the spring that Justin Turner broke his wrist. And so I actually think I would have made the team out of camp if I was healthy, but I had to get healthy first. And then I got called up pretty much the day that I got healthy.
What a damn roller coaster too, right?
It's
like
awesome,
you're working your way back, yeah, and then the oblique, but then you eventually get up. So it's awesome and super inspiring too. So Max, did you have a backup plan? Like when you were starting to think, I don't even want to do this necessarily anymore. If it's looking like this, I'm gonna go do blank.
I didn't really have a backup plan because, now if I were to stop playing, I'd still like to be involved with baseball. But back then I wanted nothing to do with baseball. I was just completely over it. I was done with it. So I didn't know. I was probably going to go back to school and try to finish my degree. I think, I still have maybe a year left, to get my degree. And so I was going to go back and do that and figure it out from there. So it was just, I was really more just relieved to be kind of just done with all the stress. And so I just didn't have anything planned out at that time.
What's your degree? What'd you major in?
I was business entrepreneurship, but I changed to general studies my junior year because at the Baylor Business School, you have to get, I think it's a B+ in all of your classes to move on. And I got a B- in business calculus. So I was gonna have to retake that. And going into my junior year, I was pretty confident I was going to get drafted. So I'm going to switch to general studies for now. Just so I don't have to
business calculus. Damn business calculus gets you every time, man. That's why AJ didn't go to college. He was not getting business calculus. But you brought up Baylor. Do you know who has the highest WAR of, and since we're talking about WAR all day and my negative 0.1 WAR for my career, who has the highest WAR of all Baylor graduates? Not graduates, but people that went there.
If it's not me, I would say either Jason Jennings or Kip Wells. Or no, probably Ted Lyons if you can go back that far.
I don't know. I didn't see Ted Lyons on there, but Jason Jennings has an 11.2. You're way ahead. You're at like 17.3.
Oh, wow.
You're on the wall. Are you choosing the position that you're playing in the alumni game when you go back to Baylor?
No, I'm not playing in the alumni game. It's they don't allow that. So
who doesn't allow
it? Everybody.
Yeah. After the career, you can go back and play. No.
Yeah, after the career, we'll go back and play in it for sure. But
yeah,
I would have. I would have guessed Jennings. Just but he was a pitcher, so it's probably hard for him to accumulate some of that WAR. But he did win Rookie of the Year. I think it was in 98, maybe.
He had homers too.
Yeah, he's one of the best hitters that come out of Baylor. Besides either him or David Murphy are the two of the best hitters, surprisingly.
What about Kelly Shopik?
Great player, great catcher. But I don't think he played enough years to get the WAR. So I don't know.
So
He
Max, we're talking about positions. Are you playing second? Where are you playing for the Dodgers this year? Second, third, utility? Like, what's the position?
I think I'm playing third, but that's kind of how the Dodgers do things. You just never know. Plans can change. But I think right now the plan is for me to play third.
What's your favorite one? Second, third,
First,
DH, first?
Not DH. I hate DHing. That's my
Okay.
least favorite thing. I don't know how to do it. I think too much. So, when I'm DHing and I get, 2 innings of just sitting in the dugout in between at bats, I drive myself crazy. So I hate DHing. I don't like doing that. Having gotten to play a lot of third last year, I think third is now one of my favorite positions. I never really felt comfortable over there just playing once every week or once every 2 weeks, filling in for JT when he had his off days, just, kind of bouncing over there. But now that I'm playing there consistently, I'm actually really enjoying it. It's a tough position to play.
Do you enjoy it when like a big right-handed hitter's coming up and they're like infield in, here's run around third, and you got, I don't know, let's say Aaron Judge is up and you're like, oh, or Manny Machado's
Like,
up and
oh,
you're
shit.
on the grass and you're like, oh God, please don't hit it to me because I might, get injured.
Well, what's funny is obviously that's not an ideal situation. But what's funny is I enjoy that more than I did when I was playing first and you're holding a guy on and you have, a big left-handed thumper up there. I don't know why it just feels completely different. Maybe because a righty, you think you might actually get a ground ball, whereas a lefty, if that ball is getting hit at you, it's just a rocket.
hey Max. So there's one day I think that you told me a couple years ago that you enjoyed being a DH, and that's when Baylor was in the Final Four, or maybe it was the championship game, whatever it was, right? Can we get a
Yeah, that
Baylor
was the
basketball
national
update?
title game.
Oh,
Yeah,
that was the title game that day.
Yeah. So they actually, that was when they won, and I was DH and I kept coming up and checking the score.
You didn't have your phone in the
That's
dugout?
probably the only day I enjoyed DHing.
You didn't have your phone in the dugout?
You can't.
You can.
I'd have your phone
Oh,
in the
trust
dugout.
me, you can.
No, you cannot.
Oh, you can.
You can, but you can't legally have your phone.
Well, I mean, as long as they don't, you get a bag,
Right.
you stick it in there
But
and
you
get it on.
yeah, but you're a DH.
What's
You have
his
time
name
to go
had
to
it
the
in his
clubhouse.
pocket? What's
Yeah,
his
I
name had it in
know,
his
but he
pocket,
got in
sliding into
trouble for
third.
that.
You can.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised he didn't get in more trouble for that one.
Me too. Yeah, I don't even. Who was that? The
Guy slid in the
Pirates.
third base and his phone came flying
Yeah.
out.
I'm forgetting the name right now. I'll get it by the time we finish this interview. But you run back to the clubhouse, right? You check the score and see how Baylor's doing, and they're good again this year, aren't they?
Yeah, we've been good the last several years. I don't think they play as good a defense as they've been playing in the past, but they do have a couple really good guards. I know they have one guard that's supposed to be a pretty high pick this year in the draft, I think.
Oh, Rodolfo Castro. That's the name, by the way, the Pirates guy.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I'm taking your word for that one.
Thank
Well
you.
done.
Hey, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, the Padres made the splashes, right? This offseason. The Dodgers have done in the past with Freeman, Betts, and all these guys they brought in. You guys didn't make that move. Has there been talk in camp about, man, the Padres now have Bogarts. They got Tatis coming back. They got Soto. They got Machado. They've got Darvish, and they beat you guys in the playoffs last year. So has there been any talk of, hey, we got to chase the Padres down, or are you guys still considered the favorites?
I think one thing we do really good in our clubhouse is we don't focus too much on, that kind of stuff. Obviously, we talk about the moves the Padres made. It's hard not to talk about the moves they made, just the guys they're bringing in. But at the end of the day, we're trying to focus on just showing up every single day and doing whatever we can to get better for that day, and just focusing on us as a team, because we have some new pieces we're trying to mesh together. We're trying to build our clubhouse back. And, I think that's the thing that we're more focused on. And I think we have a full group that understands that if we go out there every day and we're really more just playing ourselves instead of the opponent, if we're trying to, play that day as good as possible, as best as possible, it's not really going to matter who the opponent is or what that opponent has done in the off season or what that opponent might do. It's just one of those things where you just focus on yourself and you're playing yourself. You're trying to perform the best as possible to that day, do every single thing to get better that day. And, we are the Dodgers. At the end of the day, I'm going to feel pretty confident with the outcome for us if we're focused on doing that.
Did it sting last year, though, when the Padres, the little brother, I mean, it stings when you lose in the playoffs, but to the Padres.
It I mean, yeah, probably. I mean, just losing in that round stung. It didn't matter who we were playing. Um, we were arguably one of the best teams in history, and we didn't win the World Series. So it was very, very disappointing for all of us.
I'm transitioning from the Padres to you being a Padre.
Ooh.
And you you're going to be on. I mean, we're watching the reveal party here. You didn't want to throw the soft toss ball where you hit the ball and it explodes blue or pink.
Well, we already we did that for Sophie. That was how we did that gender reveal. Was we did the soft toss, so we didn't want to do it again. And that was after the season, so we were still in LA, and we were trying to figure out what would be the best thing to do. And so we had the kind of the smoke candles. We thought that was a good idea because we didn't know what we were having, and so we had the photographer we had both the pink and the blue candles, and we had the photographer pick it out and gave it to us, lit it, and then that was kind of how it went.
You know why, Kratz, he didn't do the soft toss? No, you know why? Because he would have taken it if it wasn't like right down the middle. So whoever was flipping it to him, right? If it had to be perfect, because Max would be like, nope, not swinging, don't care. Even though this is a big deal, not taking.
You're joking around about that, but when we did the soft toss for Sophie, my wife was the one tossing it, and I actually did take it a couple of times. I had to catch it to make sure it didn't break.
You still would have found out, but hey, you know what? Hitters hit, and you control the strike zone now. But you got to now control two kids. They're coming. So how are you going to go from, because we had the basketball talk, we had the Padre talk. How are you going to go from zone defense 2-on-1 to man-to-man?
Yeah, we're trying to figure that out. I think if we figure that out, I'll give you the answer then. But we're still a month or two away, and we're not sure how that's going to work. But we're obviously very excited about it, and we'll see what strategy we come up with that'll work best. But we're very excited.
I have good news for you, Max. You are going to have a little more time at home because the games are shorter. So what do you think of the rules on the hitting side of things? And when you step up at Dodger Stadium, they're going to play your song for, 5 to 10 seconds short of what it usually was because of how the games are going so quick.
Yeah, that'll actually be interesting because, in spring training, you don't really get walk-up music. So that'll be something that's interesting to see is when everyone's at home and, especially at Dodger Stadium with that sound system we have, what they're going to do with that. You might have to change how you pick your song. You might have to just get something that's got a nice short beat so that, people can get going for it. But yeah, the games have been a lot shorter. The at-bats have been a lot quicker. There's not really a whole lot of time to think, but I'm kind of loving the rule changes so far. It's just a little bit of adjustments here and there, but I think it's been fun seeing it in spring training. There's only been 1 or 2 times that I think there's been an issue, and that's in long at bats for both the pitcher and the hitter. I had one the other day where it was 8 or 9 pitches, and I kept fouling pitches off, and I'd already used my timeout. And you're just gassed, and you look out there, the pitcher is just gassed, and it's almost one of those things where you almost wish after like 6 pitches, both the hitter and pitcher got another timeout that they could use. Just little tweaks here and there, but overall, I do love the rules.
Max, what is your walk-up song?
I've always done "Welcome to the Party" by Diplo. I've done that ever since I broke in, and I've kind of always just stuck with it.
You're gonna just stick with it again?
Well, we'll see. I actually haven't even thought about that.
Okay, because
I don't have the answer. I wouldn't lie to you. But
what I'm saying is if you got to change it, you got to try to find something with like a quick like hook, right?
Beat drop. So Max, you like electronic, right?
I mean, I'm more like country. I just do that because it sounds good at the stadium.
So what? I'm an EDM guy. You got to pick the beat drop's got to be early on in the song, right? It can't be one of those like leads you up and then it drops like festival banger. It's got to be like within the first 5 to 10 seconds.
That's what I'm saying. You might have to change it because you got to get them hyped. Like you got to get those especially in the first inning when there's like 6,000 people there, and then the 7th inning you have a different one when there's 50,000 people there, and boom, hits on those speakers out in center field.
Yeah.
Well,
better speakers?
maybe this rule change will finally allow for the parking lot situation to get fixed a little bit. We need to get people into the games a little quicker. When they're stuck in traffic in the parking lot, the game's almost over. So we got to get them in the game.
Those speakers are legit. There's no better speakers in the game. But if you change your music up, is there pressure there? Like, is there pressure? You change that music, you're like, how many at bats are you giving it until you're like, I only got one walk in the last 6 at bats. Like,
I'm going back.
I need something back. I'm going back to the old, Max.
You guys played. If it's not working, it's not working. You change it up. It's because it's not my fault. That's for sure. It's everything else but my fault.
It ain't the song's fault though.
No, it's definitely.
It might be. It might be.
You guys are superstitious.
Yeah, but never about my song.
Really?
Yeah, a song is a song. Actually,
no, a song matters.
Nah,
Don't
Yes,
do
it
that,
does.
AJ.
I wasn't a song guy.
Max, we spoke to Edwin Diaz the other day, and he said William Contreras stole his walk-up song, right? And so it was in his head, and he's like, obviously he's striking out the world anyway, but he's like, I'm getting him on 3 pitches, and he did. And he was like laughing about it. He was like, I was pissed, motivated pissed, like kind of your friendly pissed, and he got him. So yeah, it does matter.
It matters,
in that situation, I think it matters.
It doesn't affect if you get a hit or not.
And someone's trying to use your song, so.
Yeah, I agree with Max. Yeah, that's his song. Like, that's Edwin Diaz's song. William Contreras can't steal Edwin Diaz's song.
Right.
So someone tries to steal Max Muncy's song, and it's a pitcher.
He's homering.
He's trying to go deep like he did off Bumgarner and telling him to get that song out of the damn ocean as he runs around the bases. He ain't being like, oh, we can share the song. Screw that, dude. That's my song.
See, AJ likes songs. Don't let him play. Oh, it's just a song. No,
I'm just saying it didn't affect whether I got a hit or not, but it matters. It matters, especially with Max. If, like I said, if he comes up and he goes into Arizona, Madison Bumgarner's got Max Muncy's song. He's like, I'm going you deep in the pool, buddy. Let's go.
You should have done that to people. You should have played their walk-up song as your song, just to troll them. Max, this was awesome. Really excited to have you on throughout the year. Thanks for making your Foul Territory debut, and we'll talk to you down the road, all right?
Awesome, guys. Thanks for having me. It sounds good to me.
Appreciate it. Max Muncy with us
Max.
on FT.
Get Freddie on here, too, by the way. Freddie, tell Freddie to don't forget his old teammates.
Yes, sir. Muncy with us throughout the season on FT, and he's got a lot going on. I mean, he's been on a Dodger team that's been good every year. That's the fortunate thing too, is you're playing on a team that is good it's hard to do. The consistency of being at the top of the division, the Dodgers have done it really well. There are not many players in the league, right, that can say that they've been a part of a winning ball club like that. I remember I looked at, Jock Peterson now on the Giants. I think this was the first year in his career, and he's been in the league already for like 8 or 9 years, that he didn't make the postseason this past year with the Giants. Like, that's...
Well, they spend, too.
Who? The Dodgers? Yeah, of course. But they draft, develop, spend, they win.
Yes.
They go through plenty of shit, too, with injuries. Just that's why sometimes the injury thing, like, gets old, because I'm like, half the teams can say, I get it. It sucks. But, like, the Dodgers deal with plenty of crap on that end.
Yeah, but they also have money on the other side
and they have depth.
Bring guys in.
But they also have depth.
Well, true. But there's so many more things I could ask Max. Like, I wanted to ask him if Vargas, the guy who takes every pitch, is his hero because he's walked 4 times out of 8 at bats. Because that would be like Max Muncy's hero, right? He hits homers and walks, right?
Yes.
So geez, he's like, man, he's got this thing down. Everyone knows he's not swinging.
No, you're right.
I wanted to get in. He's got his pet's Instagram. I wanted to talk about. We didn't even get to that. But the important things are he's having his second child. He didn't swing and miss on the soft toss the first time, but it was great that he did say he took it, which was pretty awesome.
That is awesome. That is a fun fact.
Strike, so
I didn't know that. That's good.
And then also he's playing third base because that was kind of a question mark is for the Dodgers. Where's he going to play? Is he going to first? First is obviously Freeman.
Mm-hmm.
Mookie's played some second. They got Vargas, the prospect, playing second. They lost Lux to shortstop. So who are they going to move around? How are they going to fill all these spots? So to hear him say he plays third and he likes it, I'm looking for a big year out of him.
But I also like that he said, I don't really know yet. Dodgers sometimes don't let you know right away, which is interesting too. You would think a player like that would get told, hey, third base is going to be your spot. But the Dodgers also like to have the versatility because they know Max can jump in and play second. He easily, of course, can play first if Freddie was taking the day
outfield
off.
too. He's played some outfield.
Yeah. He's a sneaky athlete, Max Muncy. I'm telling you, he can move a little bit around the bases, Kratzy.
Absolutely. The one thing that really surprised me that I had written down too, Scott, was like that he didn't know. Like when you see a team that everybody plays different positions. Mookie's a Gold Glove outfielder, could play second, all that stuff. I feel like my mind went to, well, the manager, Brian Roberts is, got to be one of the, best communicators, best, letting guys know. So for him to say he wasn't quite sure where he's going to play, that was interesting to me, and it shows that there's a lot of buy-in from those players that they just want to go out and win as a team.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, and that's saying something. There's some guys that you played with that say, roll, please. What am I doing?
I always wanted to know.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I
you
feel
wanted
like,
to know where you hit in the lineup,
well,
no?
I feel like for me as a player, and I think Kratz will agree with me on this, is players are more comfortable when they have a defined role given to them by a team, by their manager, whoever it is, a coach says, hey, you are this for our team. Go be great at this. And for Max Muncy, go hit fifth or wherever it is in the lineup, and you're going to be our third baseman every day. And for me, and I think for most players, they want to know where they stand. And sometimes it hurts when a guy comes up to you, manager says, hey, you're not playing well, we're going to move you down or we're going to sit you more. Okay, I know what I need to do, but at least I know instead of a guessing game. I don't want the guessing game of this is where I stand or I don't know where I stand or like tell me where I stand and as a man, I can adjust to it.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And it might look different. Communication might look different, but at the heart of the communication, you have a lot more responsibility as a manager or as a coach, however you're divvying out those responsibilities. You like if you don't say anything to guys, then you don't ever have to be like, no, I didn't say that. But you have to, there's ownership as a manager, as a coach, that you're constantly delving into these players. And if something changes, if AJ's my starting catcher and he's not hitting well, I got to have that conversation. Like, look, AJ, like I'm thinking about moving you down in the lineup because you're not picking up the slack in the lineup and so is, so we're going to move him up. And that might hurt AJ's feelings. But at that point, you've already put in enough deposits in the relationship bank with AJ as a manager. And I think I'm assuming that's what Dave Roberts does. And that's why he is what he is.
He's also had to manage a ton of talent and personalities, which is not easy to do.
One of the greatest.
We've seen good teams not be able to handle all the talent they have.
One of the best managers, I should say, when I go into a game to do a game for Fox, we get 20 minutes with the managers every game. The day of, he is one of the best communicators to tell us what's going on and give us enough information as broadcasters. And he trusts us also that we're not, listen, managers give you stuff when you're in these meetings that you don't say on the air, but they give you enough information and they say, can you phrase this away to where it gives you the information, but it doesn't sell anybody out? And we're like, yeah, we're never going to sell the manager out or sell players out or whatever it is, what they tell us if they ask us not to. But he communicates what he tells the guys in a way that it doesn't put anybody in a bad spot. And it's really, and he manages the analytics and he manages the front office. And it's really fun to watch because there's some guys that aren't as good at it as Dave Roberts is. And I put Hinch up there with him. Joe Madden was really good about it when he was around. Dusty Baker's awesome at it. I mean, there's a handful of guys that when you go into a team, you're like, I can't wait to talk to this guy because he's gonna give me the whole team in 10 minutes, and I don't have to. Not that I don't do homework, but it just puts it on top of what I already knew.
Oh, depending on which team is on AJ's schedule is how much homework he has to do before the game. Because otherwise, I can picture him sitting in and just being like, "Yo, tell me everything."
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. AJ is a baseball nerd, but
yes,
to couple on that with what AJ said, you can't come in to that room with a manager that doesn't know anything about his team. Those are the guys. That's a sign. The people that you talked about. That's a sign of the dudes that, like, it's easy. Like, how do you talk about something? Well, you know a lot about it, and you tell them.
Quick story, then we'll go to slap hands. So I do the futures game every year, which is like the best prospects. It's a great game. It's super fun. But they have celebrity coaches. I mean, former big leaguers, right? And they used to do manager meetings for us, just like AJ's talking about. I do manager meetings for a major league game that I would call. But for the Futures game, they asked us this past year. I said, you know what? I'm going to see so-and-so, I don't want to call any names out, on the field. It's like, I don't need the 20-minute manager meeting because they don't know the players. Like, it's a former, whatever city you're in, it's like one of their famous dudes, and he's just managing the team and all of that. And we would sit there, and they'd be like, oh, tell us about whatever. And one year, the guy was just like, I don't know shit. He's like, I don't know any of these guys, but they seem really good and cool, and I'm talking to them all. And it's like, he's like having a beer or something. Like, it's not that kind of game. So last year, I was just like, you know what? We've got enough shit going on before the game. I don't need an hour with each manager that I'm going to see on the field in 5 minutes anyway to ask him about all of these players that he doesn't know. Or it'd be like, oh, that kid, he's got a swing. I'm like, okay, cool.
We know this.
Yeah.
So my favorite, Crouch, you'll love this story. When I was still playing, I was working for Fox in the postseason. I would go to the managers meeting because I was told early on, Eric Karros used to say, listen, go to the managers meeting. You'll learn so much. So we had the Tigers, and Jim Leland was the manager, and he was old school, had the heater. Yeah, giving me the talk. And I've known Jim because he was a White Sox coach, so all the coaches on the White Sox were friends with him, so he'd always come over. And so I said, Jim, he's going through his lineup, and he's given the scouting report on all of his guys. And I'm still playing for the White Sox in their division. And I go, Jim, you know that I still play, right? And he goes, you're so fucking stupid, you'll never remember anyway, so I don't care. And I was like, okay, Jim.
How'd you do?
Miguel Cabrera the next year, I think, won the Triple Crown, and we didn't win the division. They did. So I think
that's what I'm saying.
Like, I think he was right.
him giving the information the next year doesn't necessarily mean everything, but that's good. I like that. That's great. All right, let's slap hands. Let's finish strong here. So first off, a few notable birthdays: Pablo Lopez, J.R. Richard, Joe Carter, Jeff Kent, who should be in the Hall of Fame. Don't even start. Michael Harris, who's going to be joining us soon on the show as well. And I'd like to show this one to both of you. Kratzy, you might appreciate this because apparently you can't go in the what were we talking about at the top of the show? The Plains. What's it called?
Blue Angels.
Blue Angels. Too tall to be in the Blue Angels. So is Grayson Griner, who's been bouncing around the minors and the bigs a little bit in his big league career. He's currently in the Twins organization. Sir, you're out of the shot. 6'6" behind the dish. Like you said, one of you said, hey, when I saw Kenley Jansen behind the dish, I'm like, interesting. Grayson Griner, how's your target there if you're a catcher?
Get low.
Get low.
Like the song, get low, get low.
Look at him.
Who's that? Who's the hitter? But besides the fact you can't even see his head in the shot, which is amazing because he's so tall. But like that, I don't know who the hitter was, but that kid's fighting for a job, right? And he just got called out because of the pitch clock. Like, that's where, like, I get it, but like, come on, guys. Like, there's a kid fighting for a job, and he's getting called out on
spring
strikes.
Training, though, they can always scale it back. They're trying to enforce the rules so that the players don't walk all over them.
He's in the box. He looks up, and you're out. Well, come on.
I don't know. Grayson's a drink of water there, and while that guy, not only did he strike out, we should know who that is, but we don't. Naga not going to be hitting much longer, but he's not only like. He doesn't even get to swing his last pitch of the at-bat. And then Grayson stands up and is like, sir, you got to move along. Like, his chest protector, he wasn't even up to the logo on his chest protector. And Grayson's chest protector was like just below his clavicle. No, that's not your clavicle. This is your clavicle. Whatever. It was way above his belly button. So we got to get some bigger equipment.
I can't wait for the Twitter trolls to get on you for not knowing where your clavicle is. Awesome.
I was thinking your typhoid. What is this? Your typhoid clavicle?
Your what?
Your sternum?
That was Jonathan Davis, by the way, who's 5'8".
Okay,
so that's why.
That reminded me of the Muggsy Bogues Yao Ming picture. Have you ever seen that one where they're like?
How about Judge and Altuve? That famous picture
also,
too. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
Okay, we have International Women's Day tomorrow celebration. We'll bring on Mandy Bell. I think we have a few other special guests planned. Mandy, I should say, covering the Cleveland Guardians for years. She does a fantastic job. And also Corbin Burns making his Foul Territory debut tomorrow. Thank you so much to our crew behind the scenes, Silver Tribe Media, for sending us a little cake and cupcakes. And it was pretty.
It was delicious too. I got a little piece of that cake last night. My kids didn't want to eat dinner. They wanted to just eat the cake.
Wow. How's the cake doing right now?
it's still there, and I'm gonna have to throw it away because I'll eat the whole darn thing. So.
And the cupcakes, I think those are almost taken out already. So appreciate you for doing everything behind the scenes with us, social team, production staff, the whole deal. So Foul Territory live again on a Wednesday with big time guests, and we're going live on Instagram in about an hour, maybe a little bit less. AJ, ripping packs.
Dude, I want one big money pack, so they better send me some big money packs.
Let's go. See you Wednesday. Happy Tuesday.